Hi, this is Stephen Stanley welcoming you to 12 Steps in Accent Reduction for Actors, the Basics, designed especially for actors whose first language isn't English. In today's video, we'll look at steps 3, 4, and 5. Let's get started with step 3. Underline the last stressed word in each sentence, because this is where your voice will rise and fall in statements and information questions, or continue to rise in yes/no questions. For example, in the statement, Bob has decided to set off in a new direction, the last stressed word is direction. And the same is true in the information question, why on earth has Bob decided to set off in a new direction? And in the yes/no question, has Bob really decided to set off in a new direction? Don't forget that special emphasis can change the way you'd normally say a line. Take, for example, a question as basic as, what do you think? If you've already heard various opinions and you now want your scene partner's opinion in particular, the word you would take special emphasis and you'd say, what do you think? Or if someone has accused you of lying, instead of saying, I'm telling the truth, you'd give am special emphasis and say, I am telling the truth. Step 4. Draw a line over each sentence to indicate where the tone of your voice rises and falls. This means using rising-falling intonation in statements like, Bob decided to set off in a new direction, and information questions like, why on earth has Bob decided to set off in a new direction? In both sentences, your voice rises and falls on the word direction. And rising intonation in yes/no questions like, has Bob really decided to set off in a new direction? Your voice rises and keeps on rising on the word direction. This doesn't mean that there aren't special cases where this rule gets broken. Take, for example, the difference between I know Jessica, rising falling intonation because you're making a simple statement, and I know Jessica, rising intonation because you're saying Jessica's name at the end of your statement. Or using rising falling intonation the first time you ask a question like, where are you going? But rising intonation when you probably already know the answer but want clarification. Where are you going? And while we're talking about intonation, pay special attention to commas, because that's where you'll want to use what I call pause intonation. The voice goes up on the last stressed word before the comma, then wavers down and up slightly to show that you haven't yet finished your thought. Pause intonation sounds like this. I'm sorry, I said, if you wouldn't mind. Take, for example, a simple statement with rising falling intonation like, I have enough money. In this sentence, your voice rises and falls on the last stressed word, money. I have enough money. On the other hand, if you put a comma after money, you'll use pause intonation and say, I have enough money, showing that you haven't yet finished what you have to say, which is, I have enough money, but I don't have enough time. I have enough money, but I don't have enough time. Here are a few more examples of pause intonation. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. She was rich, but she wasn't happy. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like some help. Step 5. Cross out reduced, unstressed vowels to remind you to pronounce them. For example, in multisyllable words like animal, the I and the second A are reduced to a. Machine, the A is reduced to a. Helicopter, the I and the second E are reduced to a. Animal, machine, helicopter. You'll also want to cross out vowels in unstressed one-syllable words, like pronouns and prepositions, to remind you to reduce them to a. For example, if your line is, "It's good for Bob to talk to them today," you'll cross out the O in for, the O in the first to, and also in the second to, and the E in them. It's good for Bob to talk to them today. It's good for Bob to talk to them today. And while we're talking about reduced forms of unstressed one-syllable words, remember that we have special reduced forms in conversational English for want to, have to, and going to when they're followed by a verb. This means that if your script has you saying, "I want to see you as soon as possible," write wanna above want to remind you to say, "I want to see you as soon as possible. I want to see you as soon as possible." If your script has the line, "I have to leave right away," write have to above have to remind you to say, "I have to leave right away." And if your script has your character saying, "Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day," write gonna above going to remind you to say, looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. Now that we've looked at steps 3, 4, and 5, you can continue with steps 6, 7, and 8 on the next video. And be sure to check out my other YouTube videos for more about stress, intonation, and reduced vowels. This has been your accent reduction coach, Stephen Stanley. Thanks for watching.